Well, hello and welcome to the channel today. I'm just getting ready to go out for a ride on the Scram 411 and thought it might be a wise time to do an update. It just turned 6,000 miles and I did the 6,000 mile service. Oil change, valve check. It said replace the air filter, but the air filter was practically new, so left that alone. Checked the tire pressures and we're pretty much ready to go. Now, a while ago in my history of videos, you'll see that I did one where I talked about some of the things that I didn't like or kind of annoyed me about this bike, and I thought I wanted to kind of update on some of those things because some of them aren't really problems anymore. And probably the biggest one I complained about was the transmission and the finding neutral. That's really not much of a problem anymore, and I think it's mostly due to me becoming acclimated to the bike. Not necessarily the bike having improved a whole lot, but it may have a bit, may have made things easier to find in the gearbox. But I'll say that I do now have the system down of finding neutral as I'm rolling up to a stop, and that really is not a much of a problem anymore. I do still get those fake neutrals where it says it's a neutral and it's not, but it's pretty rare. The seat, I continue to not be terribly thrilled with. This is the touring seat or whatever the better version is. And it's better than the stock one, but not by a lot. Unfortunately, we're in the midst of the tariff wars right now, so I was going to order a new seat from India, but I'm going to hold off until that all passes. But yeah, the seat's really not very good for more than a couple of hours. It's pretty bad. Hence the beaded seat cover there, which helps a lot, but it isn't really the solution to the problem. I bought and installed this hugger here by Pyramid. Got this from Hitchcock's a while ago and installed it, and am not really wowed by it. I mean, I'm glad I have it because it does a good job of keeping things cleaner, but it's installed with zip ties, and it's not really a very good way to install that product. It can kind of float around in there, and you can see here where it's actually, there we go, actually caught the tire and worn some chunks of it out. So, you know, it's expensive for a piece of plastic with a couple of zip ties to hold it on. I probably wouldn't recommend that one. They do make another one that encompasses a chain guard. That one may be better, I don't know. But it might be worth looking into that. This, I have it. It does its job, but I wouldn't buy it again. One of the other gripes I had was with the tripper. As you may recall, I even made a video on it that I said, well, at least it's a nice clock. But as a navigation device, it's kind of a joke. Since then, I have used it a few more times, and one of the key things is you have to update it. Every so often, use it whether you really need it or not, and it'll update the software version. And it works a lot better than it did when I first got the bike. When I first got the bike, it was useless. It would get lost and just have a spinning compass and just wouldn't work. And I actually was going to take it in for a warranty repair because I thought there was something wrong with it. But I just left it alone, stuck with it, and having updated it a couple of times, now it works fine. Is it a useful navigation tool? I'd still rather just use my phone on a quad lock, but it does work, and it's useful, I suppose, if you'd rather have the little turn-by-turn arrows than watching a map on your phone. The clock does not stay synchronized with the one on the dash. I don't know which one is actually the inaccurate one, but using this with the app will reset the clock to what is supposedly correct time. So there's that. And speaking of the clock, which I have to reset occasionally because when I go to start this thing, when it's warm, it'll barf the display and reset the clock to 12 and act like it doesn't want to start, like the battery's dead. This is a very common problem. with the 411s. And there's been a lot of theories as to what causes that. I have my own opinion, and I'll give you that here shortly. There's been a lot of people say, well, the original batteries are pretty cheesy and you should replace those. That's not necessarily wrong. The relays are supposedly questionable quality, and also they're plugged in there with, you know, a pound of grease from the factory. And they say cleaning the grease off will help. I don't see that really does anything. Replacing the relay with a Bosch relay could do something, I suppose. But over time, I've paid attention to this. And what I see happening is it only does it when it's hot. So that tells me that there is something going on electrically where something is expanding from the heat. So I had this problem and checked the battery, and believe it or not, the original battery in this thing is still good and still doing its job. And testing it on a tester, it comes up 5 stars. So that's not the issue. I have not touched the relays. I have not cleaned the grease off. It does do it randomly, only when it's hot. And talking with a Himalayan owner who's had the same problem and has a lot more miles on his bike, I think he's right around 40,000 or so, he's pretty much told me that it is the starter. He replaced his starter when it was doing this, and that solved the problem. And he said he took the starter apart, and the magnets inside were, I believe he said, loose or starting to deteriorate, or both. So most likely it's a problem with the starter when it gets hot, because it's right next to the engine, obviously. Things in there are expanding and creating more resistance, and the starter doesn't want to turn like it should, which must draw more current to make it actually do what it's supposed to do. So that's my theory. The starter is probably going to be the problem. Now, how big of a problem is it? One thing I've discovered, that if you just hold your thumb on the starter button, and when it does this, just hold it down, it will start. I think a lot of people get used to just pushing the starter and letting go as soon as they hear the motor spin, because typically it'll start that way. But I hold the button down when it's hot until the engine is actually fired. And that way I seem to be able to get past this sudden stoppage of starter function. And also, so far, it seems to have helped with the clock reset problem. Yeah, no. Right after I filmed that video, it did it again, and the clock reset. So, just food for thought. My investigation into this is ongoing. If it gets worse, I'll probably buy a starter and swap it out and see if that solves the problem. But it hasn't been debilitating yet, just annoying. At 6,000 miles, the original Seat tires are still humming along, although they are getting worn, and I'm going to say that they're going to need, this one's going to need replaced. This is the front one, probably at the next service, which is fine. That'll probably be about, well, I don't know if it'll make it to the next service, but we'll probably be up around 7,000 or 8,000 miles easily on these, which on the front one, which is not bad. The rear one I had to replace at 3,000 miles. It just did not last. And I replaced it with a Metzler. This is an Enduro 3 Sahara. And this is now with 3,000 miles on it, which is at the same mileage that the original Seat died, wore out. And you can see we're still at about half to maybe 30% tread remaining. So it's not too bad. I'm going to just plan on, when this one goes bad, I'll just plan on replacing the front one, which may still have some life left in it, but by that point, it's time to move on. Pretty happy with the Metzler overall. It has a similar tread pattern to the original Seat, and it was way cheaper than the comparable Pirelli. And I don't think it is any better or worse. So I would buy that one again. I like the tread pattern on this. I don't really want to go to anything more aggressive because I do a lot of road riding. And I don't want to go anything more street oriented because I still like to drive in the dirt. So may get that again, don't know. We'll see what's available at the time when the tire needs replaced again. So coming up on the end of the 3-year factory warranty, nothing really is a problem. I'm pretty happy with this bike, especially now what you can get them for, either if there's still some new ones out there, there may be sitting at dealers, or what you can buy used ones for. I certainly wouldn't pay a whole lot. Looks like the going rate for these in the used market's between $3,500 and $4,000. And it is an amazing, amazing purchase price for a bike like this. It's a kind of a do-everything motorcycle, as long as you don't want to go really fast. But I'm quite happy with it. I've had no other problems with it. It just does the thing. And it's probably the bike that I get on the most. I mean, I put, since I've owned this thing, 6,000 miles in about 2 years, which is pretty remarkable for just one motorcycle when I have 4. So, impressive. So anyway, that's the update on this at 6,000 miles. Hopefully it's helpful to you if you're shopping for one of these. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. Thanks for watching.